today alone. You can tell this is what was supposed to be where the front door is. This man tells us he was not home when this happened, but it's obviously devastating. What drivers can expect is road closures, and you just saw some images of River Road. This is between 3rd and 7th Street here, and this is exactly why it's closed. In January 2020, there were 9 homicides. Fast forward here to January 2021, that number jumped to 18. Right now, we're out at the Falls of the Ohio, where many people have come to gather and start searching. That's what they did this morning. You can see some of the debris people are having to walk through and navigate through. They're really excited to finally have some people in their yard again, to bring back those regulars who have become their friends, Derby traditions, Oaks traditions. Through the Nyla Lanier Foundation, 16-year-old Nyla was shot and killed over the summer. Her mom is now holding weekly meetings here at Spring Valley Funeral Home in hopes of bringing other moms together who have lost a child to gun violence. Moss Creek Avenue, where Senator McConnell came and saw the damage. This is one of the areas in Bowling Green that suffered the most loss. These units basically act as security officers, and as soon as they're set up at a property, the cameras are monitored 24/7. The goal is to prevent crime. Outside the Sellersburg Fire Department, anyone in the community now has access to free Narcan to reverse a drug overdose. The Narcan is stored right here in this box. One of the reasons the shelves look full is because some of the same products are on multiple aisles to help fill space. Partnership between Game Changers and Option to Success Family Services. Individual and group therapy sessions will happen in here, and just around the corner is day treatment. This sign is just the beginning. Those behind this project have even bigger plans to eventually build a buffalo statue in this median on Preston. There are thousands of plants on Churchill Downs property, and a majority of them come straight from this greenhouse. Brick by brick, piece by piece, what once stood as a home is now piled up collections of rubble lining the street. And that's the story for house after house. Lumber, tree limbs, and power lines tangle in a front yard. Insulation exposed, bricks ripped away. Family members say 77-year-old May White lived here. She's been identified as one of the victims who did not survive this storm in Warren County.
Her passing affected a whole lot of people, just like this storm did. Her passing did too. They tried to call the ambulance, but they wasn't able to make it through. They wasn't able to make it to her. Her jewelry, we wanted to bury her, and her jewelry, we wasn't able to find it.
This area, one of the hardest hit in the community, not far from Jennings Creek Elementary School. Strangers packing the streets to bring food, chainsaws, anything they can to literally lend a helping hand.
If you don't have money, if you don't have material things to help the victims of this tornado, you have yourself, you have your 2 hands. If you can do that, that's something.
In full force, this community showing its love for one another, carrying the weight of all that's lost.
That's Bowling Green. Bowling Green is a great community. They're a loving community, and they're a very giving community.
Our neighborhood where I live was untouched, but I know my neighbors in the community are hurting. So, you want to do whatever you can to jump in and help out.
Kids using this time while school is called off to clean properties, hand out cases of water bottles. The fire department continuing to search for those that are missing. Coroner Kevin Kirby praying the number of fatalities does not rise.
We will get through this, and we will be better from it, and we will have knowledge from what we have learned during this storm to make things better. And our prayers are just with everyone who's been affected, and especially with these families that have lost their loved ones.
Reporting in Bowling Green, Darby Beane, WDRB News.
Somebody knows who this guy is. Like, he just didn't appear out of nowhere. Somebody knows.
Kentucky State Police looking for answers year after year, decade after decade.
It's important for me that he gets returned to his family. He gets a resting place with people, his loved ones.
But who is he? That's still the biggest question in the case, more than 30 years in the making. Inside the DNA database section of the Kentucky State Police Laboratory in Frankfort is Supervisor Regina Wells.
All of the evidence profiles, all of the missing persons profiles, we do all of the searching and we report those out to law enforcement.
But some answers are harder to find. She says there are more than 70 sets of unidentified remains in Kentucky.
That represents 70 families that don't know where their loved one is.
New technology and resources are now helping agencies like KSP identify those remains. KSP is working with groups like the DNA Doe Project, a nonprofit out of state that uses forensic genealogy, a type of DNA analysis that can't be done at the laboratory, to help law enforcement identify remains of John and Jane Does.
The cases that we're sending them, we have already analyzed them and entered them into CODIS, but unfortunately we've received no hits.
KSP sent its first case to the DNA Doe Project in 2018. Decomposed remains were found off I-65 near Bowling Green in 2001. No identity, no answers for around 20 years. A mystery until this summer, a big break in the case, thanks in large part to the DNA Doe Project.
I think everybody heard me yell whenever we got the report, and it confirmed that it was her.
Her is this woman, now identified as Dawn Claire Plonsky Wilkerson of Nashville, Tennessee.
She counted that she mattered to everybody.
Estranged for years, Penny Simonson had no idea what had happened to her sister. She didn't know about Wilkerson's death or the case until recently.
It was sad. It was very sad. You know, because we kind of just drifted, and I just thought that's what she wanted, and maybe she didn't. Because we didn't know.
Now with one big answer, KSP investigators are still digging for more, determined to find out how Wilkerson's body ended up on the side of the interstate. Just as detectives are trying to find answers for this victim of violence in Grant County. A man believed to look like this was shot and killed more than 30 years ago.
They did everything they could back in '89 to try to determine who this individual was. And unfortunately, the case went cold.
No name, no identity, and it's become personal for those on the case over the years.
In this case, we couldn't identify him through facial recognition. His hands had been removed, so we couldn't utilize fingerprints.
This image, created in 1989, has since been updated as technology improved to what investigators believe the man looked like. KSP says he was found with 2 shots to the back of the head in a tobacco barn, his clothes ripped off, his hands severed. The case was sent to the DNA Doe Project in early 2020.
It gives me a lot of hope. In '89, no one really thought about identifying somebody through DNA. DNA was relatively new at the time, right?
Other families like Wilkerson's, who now have some answers, hope that others can find that same closure.
This was a wonderful program to go back so many years, just to keep searching.
No closure yet, but some clues in the case. The DNA Doe Project has found the victim likely has roots in Eastern Europe and matched his DNA at a distant cousin level. A glimpse of hope and a solid start to get answers for this man and the nameless remains like his, no matter how much time has passed.
It's important for me to let them know that KSP hasn't given up.
Detectives believe someone out there still knows something about this case. They say if you have the smallest detail from 30 years ago that could be a clue to finding this man's identity or what happened to him, call KSP in Dry Ridge. The numbers are at the bottom of your screen and you can remain anonymous. Darby Beane, WDRB News.